Hi, it's Shane from LePage Plant Healthcare. So it's the middle of February and I want to cut down my Cotoneaster hedge, which has grown too tall, and I need to make some hard cuts. So this is a good time of year to do it. So what do I mean by hard cuts? Well, you can see this growth right here. I cut, this was 2 years ago. I cut down here. Last year I cut up here. So this is 2-year-old growth. And I did a light trim on last year's growth right here. So a hard cut is anything below these 2 years of growth. So going way down into the hedge, down in here, this would be kind of hard cutting. And this is the good time of year to do that. So why do I even want to cut this hedge down at all? I mean, it's healthy, it's growing really well. But the problem is, summertime, when I'm sitting on my chair, I can't even see my yard because the hedge is so tall now. So it feels like I'm locked in my patio. So why winter? Why am I cutting now? Why don't I wait till summer? Winter, or late winter, early spring, is actually the most ideal time to prune most deciduous trees and shrubs. Now this is Cotoneaster, it's deciduous, and especially on shrubs, when you want to do hard cutting and you want to cut, say, halfway down, what we want to do is minimize the time that the tree has open wounds. So when this starts to leaf out in May, the energy that's stored in the roots and the wood is going to immediately go to sealing the open wounds, and that'll happen really quickly. Whereas if we do it in the summertime, disease pathogens are in the air, so we won't see a lot of disease spores and stuff like that when the early season happens here in Alberta. So when this starts to leaf out, most of the diseases aren't even really active yet. So it's more of disease prevention and stress reduction. That's what we're trying to do. And the other thing is about winter is I can actually see what I'm working on really well. So that's another big advantage. So what kind of tools am I going to use? I have a DeWalt power pruner that I'm going to use for some of the bigger cuts. It gets rid of that wrist strain, makes it a lot easier. And finishing for finer cuts or for some very big cuts, I have the pruning saw and the secateurs. And for final finishing touches on the smaller stuff, I'm going to use a nice sharp pair of hand shears. So Shane, why aren't you using hedge shears, gas shears, power hedgers? For the same reason I wouldn't get a haircut with steak knife, because that would leave a very jagged cut, right? So I want to have nice clean cuts, so I'm using sharp tools that are going to give me the cleanest cuts, and in doing so it's not only going to look a lot better, but the wounds are going to heal faster and there'll be less chance of injury or disease pathogens entering the wounds. So I'm going to cut this hedge about in half, probably right around here, right about just below shoulder height. And I'm just going to start at the edge, get a nice line, nice straight line, and then follow it across, always looking back at what I'm doing to make sure it's nice and straight. So the first things first, I'm going to get the power pruners and get some of the big stuff out of the way. So starting here on the end, I'm just going to make a cut approximately where I want the finished line to be and go from there. Now you can get industrial pruners for $2,600 for a set. And they have a backpack that holds the battery and they'll last all day, which is great for commercial pruning. But for just homeowner pruning, I just bought this last year actually, and the DeWalt power pruners are actually really great. They can cut a fairly large branch, and they're reasonably light, unless you're working above your shoulders for a long period of time. So these are actually great for this kind of work. And very affordable. I think these were maybe $200 Canadian. Okay, so now that I've got a line started, I'm just going to follow that all the way across, and I'll show you what that looks like in time lapse. Okay, so that's the rough-in stage. As you can see, it's still a pretty shaggy looking hedge. Lots of stragglers that need to be cut down. And but what I noticed, and what I forgot to mention, was when you're cutting along the hedge, it gives you a chance to look for insect or disease problems, and I found one of each. So There's a light infestation of scurfy scale on the hedge, and that's something I'm going to spray for in early May, just as the scale crawlers are starting to emerge, so I get that under control before it gets out of hand. And the other thing is this hedge has had repeated bouts of fire blight, which is an extremely common bacterial disease on Cotoneaster hedges here in Alberta. So I'm going to go along next with the pruners, the hand pruners, and just pick out as much of that fire blight or old fire blight as I can, and then I'll continue on with the shears. So what do I mean by scurfy scale? Well, these are insects that are kind of hard to detect, but these little white spots along the branches, these are an insect actually, and while this is a pretty mild infestation, they can get out of hand pretty easily because they have so many eggs under each one. And these are wingless insects. They also don't have legs. They just attach themselves to the branches, but they can become a real problem. And the other thing is old fire blight. So I look at some of these old twigs that are dead, these pink colored ones with a wrinkled bark. That's evidence it was probably fire blight, infected with fire blight at some point. So I'm going to go along and remove all of that. Okay, so now that that's done, or at least 80% of it, I'll probably have to go back a little later to get some of the fine stuff. But just for the sake of time, that's most of the disease out of the shrub. And now I'm going to take the shears and just finish off the line and make it look as nice as I can. It's nice to leave as straight a line as possible, not only because it looks great, but because it makes it much easier for the next person, either myself or somebody else, to trim this hedge. They can just simply follow my old line. Okay, so when I look down the line of my hedge, obviously I have last year's growth in here. I want to come in a few inches. Right there, hopefully you can see that. And so I'm going to just start trimming and just try to follow that, eyeball this all the way down. And of course I'll keep looking back to make sure I'm keeping a straight line. Okay, so this hedge is starting to look pretty good. One final thing, so I've got a pretty straight top, I've got a nice side, and I didn't take nearly as much off the side because I didn't have to. I had plenty of room here for it to grow. And the last thing, I'm going to take those power pruners again and just go along the top and just make the odd cut just to make it that much better. Okay, so that's it. Hedge is done, looks great. And I probably won't have to touch this for another 2 or 3 years as far as making another hard cut. So next summer I'll probably just do a light prune on the new growth, maybe 3 or 4 inches, and the same each year until it gets too tall again. If you have any questions about pruning, either hedges or anything else for that matter, please leave a question in the comments and I'll get back to you.